What should musicians bring to the session besides their equipment?
Yeah, we should bring that. And some more of that, see? And so the most important thing to bring to a session in regards to what I do is openness to deepness. And not expecting same old, same old. Not expecting the, let's say, programs to be reinforced in any way, shape, or form. So if we can say, come without your programs, that would probably be, the advertisement, don't bring your programs, please. Not needed here. In fact, we don't even want the musician here. So we want something more than the musician, or what is thought of as a musician, to come into this situation of, let's say, pristine hearing. So they could be invited to not come at all. Or come clean. Clean. Come clean. It's a good word. Come clean, please.
What is your take on professionalism in music?
Also, willingness to go deeper than your status quo. And that would imply a very sincere urge to learn and to grow, and more importantly, to create beyond your usual patterns and programs and mechanisms of practice relative to musical patterns and musical technology, including rhythm, harmony, and melodic patterns and so on. Come in, we said clean before, but clear. Come in clear now. You're clean and clear. It's good. Be ready. Be open. See? Hear atmosphere. Never mind just hear your mind and your memories and all the garbage that goes on in your background, right, in your world. But hear the moment. Hear being here.
Are the guys who you play with ready for anything?
Just about. You never know what to expect. So, of course, there can be those moments where there might be a tune or structure to work on, work with, understand, clarify, elaborate on, or something. But for the most part, it's better when there's nothing to expect. Just come and respond to the sound as it occurs, so that nothing happens, but everything is fulfilled. There's always plenty to play, so to speak. But it's a matter of what you feel and what you can perceive beyond your thought. That this comes into perspective as something meaningful and good practice at the same time. Come in?
Yeah, during one of the breaks the other day during the recording session, you had mentioned that for the musician's healing, that they should play what they feel they need to get out of their system.
Mm.
But I mean, when they're playing with you, it has to meet up somewhere. They can't just start on their own tangent. They got to be sensitive to what's happening.
The issue is there's already a pre-existing, well, like a precondition, right? It's already there. It's presence. There's a presence. See? And they have to access the presence. And that's important. But for most people, they have to think about a presence because they don't know what to access. See? They don't know if it's their own presence or someone else's presence or, you know, some other kind of presence. See? Mm-hmm. Mm. So the idea of something already here as fuel for the creative process is a serious consideration for musicians. How well can you play if you don't know what you're playing or you don't know what's coming? How secure are you to deal with that? See, how confident are you of yourself? See, to create from nothing or from something other than yourself. See? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When I was playing with Rashid, the nothing was always the best reference for us. And the easiest in the terms of start playing. Just play. Which was one of the statements I would get, or urges I would get from Pharaoh in the very beginning, when I joined them at the Village Vanguard first couple of times. Just play. Right. And that was a way of saying, in other words, I was on the right vibe, so continue. More of that. See? Yeah. More. And then more. And he would push it, see? And get the most out of me in that way. Because I understood. I was in resonance with him. So it wasn't a complication of thought or memory or melody or music or tunes. It was none of that. Was feeling the moment, the vibe in the moment. And that's abstract. That's a who knows issue. Who knows? Right? So every band, every person may have their own sense of what that is. So good luck, right?
So we were just talking about tuning into a certain vibe, or something in the air, whether it's performing live or a recording session, tapping into. So what can musicians or band leaders or anybody do in order to become more attuned or more aware of this notion?
Well, there's no shortcut. It's not an issue of do this or do that. And everything's going to be fine and dandy. We wish. It's not that easy. You have to evolve to that point. See? So what I would recommend, and not to offend others, but do yoga. Do something to open yourself up more to a different level of sensing. See? Comfort, maybe. Openness, relaxation. Meditation, perhaps. Overused word, because we are all meditators, depending on what we're preoccupied with is your meditation. So it's a matter of having an inner sense of what it is. And it's without thinking about it. It's even without feeling it. In other words, it's a sense of knowing. You just know. And with Pharaoh, you had better know what he was talking about, or he asked you to leave. He did give other people an opportunity to do that. And he sent them away. Because he knew what he knew. And he knew what he expected from others to be in tune with. I'm not saying it's a high demand or a low demand. It's just being in resonance with the individual and what their spirit is, if you can tap into that. And just knowing what they do and what they play is not being in tune with their spirit, necessarily. So it's not easy. So it requires a certain evolutionary level of perception and perhaps depth. That makes it easier. The deeper you are, the easier it is to feel it and receive it. So you have to figure out how you can practice deepness therapy. Right? Deepness musical practice.
What should musicians be sensitive to?
In terms of what? Other musicians?
Yeah, maybe playing in a group setting, playing in a band, playing with others.
Well, they should respect and not expect too much. Say, know the artist you're associating with. Know something about them before you show up at a club or a gig and impose any nonsense on them. Say, try to manipulate them to your favor. Because when I was on the scene, I've seen all kinds of tricks, all kinds of strange little numbers being played on the musicians. Say, hey, guess who I know, man? Hey, I'm a friend of I'm so-and-so's cousin, man. I'm your brother, man. And so on. And you have to, be beyond yourself in order to rise faster. You can't have all these petty expectations and programs. You have to be empty to be able to get through a lot of what it is. You have to be empty, like not care about whether they see you or like you or hear you or know you, right? The cats I was around never cared about any of that, And they were quiet cats, man, for the most part. They were listening. But they weren't interested in everybody else's business in the same way. Of course, there's always gossip. You hear gossip in the circle of the musicians. And when something great is happening, people talk about it. They're more contained. Musicians I knew were more contained, more certain of themselves. So they didn't have too much to say. And they respected other people, and that's how it should be. Respect the other musicians. And when you are less, there's a good chance that artists might want you to come closer. If you're less, right? Instead of self-promoting or whatever, sometimes it's better to just be empty. And they may feel you. So they may reach into the intangible and say, yeah, you need to talk to me or something? Yeah, did you have something to say? So we're really talking about the humble level of musical participation. So, receptive level, yeah. I think it's also important to not only learn scales and keys, but learn the scales of dignity, see, and kindness, see, and nobleness. Bring that to the musicians. See? Sweetness, detachment. Detachment's very important. Letting be, let everybody be doing what they're doing. See? Because freedom you give them is the freedom you have. So often you have people who want to be like someone else to the degree where they're not able to be themselves. Because ultimately you have to be you. Everyone has to be their original inner being, the true inner being. See? And that's everything else on the way is, let us say, a step in that direction. See? At best, a step in that direction. Musicians have to have a sense of needing freedom to be true. See? That's something you need to create, the freedom of being true. So if we're talking about, let's say, native culturing, see, and so there's a familiarization there, and there's an openness. See, when you're around native cultures, musical cultures, Latin, African, so on, Brazilian, there's freedom. See, there's freedom to associate, but there's also a lot of respect. See, so it's not a freedom to impose, see, or step on toes. It's a freedom to offer even sacred respect to the other musicians. See, so that's something that is important to maintain. It's a certain kind of inner, even profound respect for the, let's say, for the effort to express, like virtuosity, for instance, and impeccable technique or understanding, musical genius, and so on. So we respect that. See, we respect it, and we dignify the whole thing. The idea is make it like a royal kind of situation. See, where there's respect, and there's no room for people saying, "Oh, you guys are jazz degenerates, right? Or jazz like dirtbags." No, it can be jazz genius and jazz majesty, right? See, higher intelligence, jazz intelligence, creative intelligence. See, and that's what we need to lift ourselves up to, and you have to carry that as an individual, self-respect. See? Majestic consideration for others and oneself. Respect what you're doing and who you're being, without making it an ego trip. See? Saying, no, this is good, this is important, this is respectful, this is kind, and this is developmental, and this is progression as well. Progression. And many of the great jazz people, jazz masters, are dignified beings. You know, some are more dignified than others. Some obviously dignified than others. Right? And I think jazz, in a sense, is classical, more so than less. See? It's classical, creatively classical music, creative classical music. Tremendous discipline and intelligence is necessary to do it properly or brilliantly. It's not easy. See? Now you have people with good memory, and that's good. That stands in your favor in a certain way, you know. But we need creativity beyond memory, right? Because memory gets a little old. Memory is repetition. We need creativity, something different, something unique, something like unfolding, something being born in your face. Right? First time, like, whoa, what was that? There's a feeling of freshness when that's happening. Right? It clears the air. It's like, whew, right? Come from the deeper inner being. See, and that's a miracle of music and a miracle of jazz as creative classical music. So musical leadership has to do with character. What you know or feel about yourself and what you know or feel about others. See? And the deeper, this is a theory, the deeper you are in touch with your heart, then that embraces more and more people regardless of differences. Right? Because then you enter like the beauty of hearing world music as one thing. Right? Different versions like, as a beautiful thing. All the different colors as part of the magnificent beauty of creative, let's say, wonder that is given to us in the name of, or in the ability, or in the, let's say, phenomena of music. See? Sound, song, rhythm, all the things that we are essentially as natives. See? Human expression. See? What soulful expression? The soulful level of it would seem to be the most precious. As when a baby cries, as when a bird is injured or something. You know, soulfulness, heartbreak, majesty, 9/11 majesty, right? Big time. When we're all wounded at the same time and we feel the same thing at the same time, regardless of who, regardless of your color, man. Come on, man. It's about as superficial as you can be. Right? We are not skin. We are blood, guts, heart, and soul. Right? It's not like clothing. It's essence. Right? It's inner being. See? We see from within. We hear from within. We love from within. See? We are human beings from within out. See, going in, which is a good phrase, going in, we don't mean going inside relative to music necessarily. And we don't mean going in to yourself to the degree where you are further exacerbating the relations you have with other people by being so in, they're out. See? We're talking about a different dimension of inness here. Going into the all, see, going into where everyone is. That would imply going into the universal soul. See, so that your experience is common with all beings. That's the in. You're into it. You're into the all being, so to speak. You're into the divine. See? You're not into the difference and isolation and separation, which is really the domain of the ego. See, but the domain of the divine is heart, the heart of all beings. That's good music, man. That's the best music. Where we all celebrate, we all jump up, we all sing the same song and feel the same music, feel the same heart, hue.